Carlo asked me to tell my story about depression, and he also suggested to write it down so I wouldn't forget anything. And problem with that is I'm not a very good reader. It's not one of my strengths. I've got a lot of other strengths. That's why I got my dear wife here. One of her strengths is reading. So I'm going to ask her to read pretty much my life story in about 10 minutes.
In my early 20s, I became crippled with rheumatoid arthritis, gout, spurs, a spinal disease, kidney stones, as well as other diseases. I was already very familiar with physical pain as I was accident prone as a child, and I received hidings regularly for venturing into nature against my parents' wishes. From some teachers I got the cane on my hand, and one of them even slapped me on the face. With physical pain, there's proof to show others, bruises, swelling and scars from accidents there for life. On the other hand, emotional scars are very real but invisible, and I carried them inside and hid them very well, some of them even from myself. In my 40s, emotional pain started to surface even though I had a great family and no debt. It made no sense to me or those around me. I would wake up feeling heavy and very tired even though I had slept for many hours. I would lie in bed awake feeling sad and sorry for myself. I had no motivation for anything in life. I thought, this is hell, and I wanted out in my darkest hour. In that moment, I got to understand why so many people take their own lives, and I could also have done it with no hesitation. To me, it would have been the easiest option. I felt no love in that moment for anyone or anything, or anyone, including myself. My heart felt like a lump of meat doing its job, pumping blood through the body, prolonging my agony, and also going against the will of the mind. In this very moment when there seemed no way out, a voice spoke to me from somewhere deep inside. It said, "You've been through crises before. Remember when you were a physical mess, the doctors helping you the best they could with drugs and operations, telling you that there was no cure. Here is the invalid pension and medication to manage your pain," they said. You had the inner strength then when you listened and followed your inner guidance. You felt so empowered and a sense of great freedom when you flushed all the medications down the toilet. You took a great leap of faith that day when you were guided by your intuition, the only thing you can trust. By finding a way to heal all those diseases, you did something that most people think is impossible. This crisis is no different. It's just a challenge, and when you go through it, it will make you stronger. I felt that if I chose the other option that seemed like the easy way out, I would be confronted with the same situation in another life. So I knew I had to find the courage to deal with the situation there and then. Soon after that, I started crossing paths with men who survived depression and had been through the journey. They all found some light after going through the darkness and found some joy and freedom through a process of expression, the opposite of depression. I learned to change some beliefs. Probably the most powerful one I changed was boys don't cry. I replaced it with real men do cry. Once I changed that belief, I started healing very fast. Sometimes I would heal an old wound by listening to certain music while watching a movie or singing a song, and sometimes I would express myself through writing. Anytime emotions which felt like knots would well up inside me, I would always allow the body to feel whatever was going on, and the floodgates would open, bringing tears and uncontrollable sobs. It was so liberating to let go of the burden I had carried around for so many years. I was also introduced to rebirthing and vibrational pulsing, which aided the release of stored past emotional pain. I believe that each individual needs to find a process that works for them, and there are many methods and professionals who can aid in emotional healing. I am so grateful to these men who came into my life at a time of need and with no hesitation or expecting anything in return, supporting me and helping me out. Tonight I will share with you two of many stories that I had locked away that I believe contributed to my depression. I was a young boy in nature in Spain with my mate. I felt happy and alive, a place where time didn't exist for me. We came across a bird that was just learning to fly, and after running after it until it tired, I caught it and held it in my hand in a nurturing way as we headed back to town. My thoughts were to care for it and raise it to be my mate. As I entered my home, I hid the bird in my pocket as I realised that if my mother saw the bird, she would know I had left the town area yet again, and I would receive a hiding with her shoe. My mother was a clever interrogator and got the truth out of me anyway, and as she began to hit me, the bird flew out of my pocket. My mother caught it, and in her rage, she looked at me with those fiery eyes and smashed the bird on the stone floor. I looked at that bird and knew it was lifeless. When I relived that experience, I got teary, then the floodgates opened, tears were rolling down my cheeks, and big sobs came from deep inside. I was telling someone about this experience weeks later, and more tears were shed. I couldn't believe that I had carried that much emotion from one incident for over 30 years. I'd like to say at this point that I love my mother very much, and I have totally forgiven my parents and other people for whatever they have done. I now know that everyone does the best that they can do at the time according to their upbringing and programming. The process of forgiveness takes me out of being in a victim role. Another incident that resurfaced during an emotional healing session was as a 16-year-old boy. I returned home from picking tobacco and I found my mother crying and blood coming from a cut on her head. I asked what had happened, and she said she had been hit on the head with a stick by a man on the farm. A great emotion built up inside of me, and with no hesitation I knew what I was going to do. I slipped away and went inside the house and got my father's double-barrel shotgun and put a cartridge in each barrel. Everyone else was in the shed, so I scouted the farm to find him and noticed his car was gone, so I knew he had left the farm. I waited, and eventually my rage turned to anger. By the time he returned, I had calmed down and I was left with anger and thoughts of revenge. Because of circumstances, I didn't pull the trigger that day and have my life turn out very different to what it is today. By this experience being brought to the surface as an adult, I released much emotional pain through crying, and I worked on forgiving this man for what he had done, and more importantly, forgive myself for the revengeful thoughts I carried for a very long time. In my life, when I am faced with a crisis, I don't seek a remedy or suppression of the symptoms. I won't settle for less than a total cure. My experience has taught me that to truly heal, I had to change myself. I'll repeat that the opposite of depression is expression. That is a good place to start. Talk to a friend or relative, help someone who is worse off than you, create a piece of artwork, develop the feeling of being grateful. I have become more expressive in so many ways. I have changed many beliefs that didn't serve me in a positive way. I have faced and overcome my fears. I now know the difference between an observation and a judgment, and now very rarely judge others or myself. I've worked on my addictions, and if any resurface, I use them as a monitor of my emotional well-being. Life has taught me that there is no quick or magical cure for depression or any other disease, and that almost everything can be cured by looking for the cause. I know it takes courage to take the journey from the head to the heart, which is only 2 handspans apart. I found it most rewarding and empowering, and I now know that my heart is more than just a pump. And when I am guided by a voice from my heart, everything works out for the best, and I now have more of a sense of who I truly am. If we really want to cure, we may need to own our stuff and develop a true self-esteem by knowing who we really are. If we identify ourselves with what we are, our job, our possessions, being a father, husband, and so on, it gives us a false sense of self-esteem, as all of these things can be taken away from us in an instant. I wish you all the very best in your journeys, and I hope in sharing my story I have inspired someone here tonight. Thank you.
Fear. Fear is something that we all been spoken about. My biggest fear was to stand, when I was at school, stand in front of the class and speak to my mates. It was more than a fear, it was a phobia. I could not do it. And here I am tonight, using some techniques, breathing techniques and so forth, but no fear whatsoever. What is there to fear? You are my brothers and sisters. I'm no greater than anybody else. I'm no less than anybody else. And in saying that, my journey has taken me from my head to my heart, and the best way I can express heartfelt emotion or feelings is with a song. So if I can just sing a very short song, which is very appropriate for this night and for my story. When I'm down and oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raised me up so I can stand on mountains. You raised me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raised me up to more than I can be. When I'm down and oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come